Welcome, everybody. We are live following AEW Revolution. Jeff Hawkins from the Dynamite Show, myself, Double G here. We're going to recap the big show that featured an insane main event. Did you ever think you would, when you first? Okay, let's go back to the beginning. When would you have first ever seen Sting?
I saw him when I was 14 or 15 in UWF because I remember I was in gym class and some kid I told the story on the Power Bombshells this morning. We were doing this volleyball game where whoever messes up the point gets eliminated. It was 5-on-5, so I said something like teams of 5 strive to survive. And somebody looked at me and goes, "Isn't that what they say about the Survivor Series?" I go, "Yeah." I go, "You watch wrestling?" I go, "Yeah." They go, "You ever seen UWF?" I went, there's more wrestling I can watch.
Yes,
I'm there. And it was on the old Home Team Sports Network. And I had just gotten cable because we had just moved into a new house. And that was where they put like a lot of Baltimore Orioles and Washington Capitals games and certain things. And it was at that time where it was on Mondays at 4. And sometimes you'd get it and sometimes you wouldn't. But I remember it was when Sting and Rick Steiner were teaming with or were in Hot Stuff and Hyatt International with Eddie Gilbert and John Tatum and Jack Victory and Gary Wolf and Terry Taylor, and they came out to Fight for Your Right to Party by the Beastie Boys.
Amazing. So I've told this story before, but Survivor Series 87, I was fired up to see Hogan and Andre again. And lo and behold, when I get the tape back from my dad's friend, it is Starrcade 87. And I had no idea what was going on. I was like, what happened? Like, imagine, being 10 years old and you just get this other wrestling show, sort of like you. Like, I knew other wrestling existed. I didn't necessarily know where and when I could watch it. So the opening match on Starrcade 87 is Sting in a 6-man. And so I'm watching this going like, I have to do because I don't have any other option, and it's wrestling, and it was kind of the best thing to happen because I was then able to follow along with something else, and I wasn't just watching WWF. And Sting was the very first match, and watching this dude, and then I think they missed the dive on that show. Like, Sting does a big dive, and I think the camera misses it. So just that would happen from time to time. But yeah, so that would have been my first of seeing him. And then I didn't even watch the Clash live because I was watching WrestleMania 4.
Oh, okay.
So I know that, I just remember one of my buddies saying, yeah, like, I know you're watching WrestleMania, but you like kind of missed the best match. Like, you missed the best show. And I just was like, appalled. I was like, what do you mean? Like, I was watching WrestleMania. Like, nope, you missed like a great match. And so, like, but from then on, Sting is basically the young guy who you're kind of like, this guy's kind of cool. You have Flair on the other side, and Flair was always cool even into his 40s. I think people feel differently today, but when we were younger, he definitely was. And then I told this on with John LaRocca. I don't think I've ever been more of a Sting fan than the Clash in February of 1990, right before he tears up his knee. When the Horsemen turn on him.
When Ole basically gives him the ultimatum, and
yes, I was like, I was so fired up for Sting, and I was in, and then all of a sudden I see him limping. And then Flair attacks him anyways. Like, what's going on here?
I loved that Horseman J-Tex feud, but I swore Tully was going to come in and clucks Sting, and because I didn't know anything at the time.
He would have.
No, it's funny because for that Mania 4 Clash, we watched Clash live at our house and recorded the pay-per-view of Mania, and then watched it afterwards. That was when my brother and his friends were still into it, and Little Caesars was giving you 2 pizzas at once, and mom just came down and, okay, we'll plop down $40 and the kids will be, good all day for everything. So we had an all-day Sunday of wrestling that day. It was awesome. I remember that.
Yeah, that's amazing. So we have a quote here from James B. Peppermint Fatty says, "First time I saw Sting was 1986 as a Blade Runner." So that's even before you at that.
Yeah. Point. Well, I mean, he probably had access to Memphis or even early UWF where he was, because that was Watts territory where he was.
Yes. Yeah. Other people in the chat are talking about WCW and such. But there, John and I were talking, and believe me, folks, we're going to get to talking about this pay-per-view because it's very worth talking about. We were talking about how both of Sting's first 2 runs, they're kind of screwy. And the one that I just mentioned, he's going to win in February, but then he tears up his knee. So then they rush him back and he wins in June. And then the post flare and then the Black Scorpion and all that stuff.
Oh, God.
Very cold. He has the match with Sid Vicious at Halloween Havoc. And so, kind of screwy the way that happened. And then when he gets it again, Lex Luger has basically finished up his dates and you don't even see this guy on television. And then he has the match with Sting and he's like a 320-pound bodybuilder. And he can't really, I mean, they have a fine match, but it's not like the Lex that was going to be in shape and could go 20. It was the Lex who could go 12 minutes or whatever. And because Lex is on his way to WWF because he's going to be part of the Bodybuilding Federation. So both of Sting's first title wins were kind of screwy. And then, of course, everyone remembers Starrcade 97.
Are you telling me you weren't hyped for Sting versus Al Perez? Come on.
Okay, so Dave and I had that conversation today. We were talking about obviously the passing of Ole Anderson.
Yeah.
And I asked him, Dave, the Black Scorpion and all that magic stuff is the antithesis of Ole Anderson.
Yes.
What is going on there? I said, was Jim Herd involved? Dave said no, it was all Ole.
Ole was trying to get current, I think.
Yeah, and he was kind of checked out on trying to be the old school guy, and that's what we got. And so Dave said he believes the Black Scorpion was only going to be Al Perez, and then they decided to extend it after that.
Now, young me in my area, we all thought for certain that they had somehow gotten the Ultimate Warrior.
That this week we talked about this as well.
Yeah.
They definitely wanted the slightly smarter fans to think that Warrior was going to come in, even though he was WWF champion at that time.
Yeah. Who was your favorite Sting opponent? Because it's interesting because I've gotten 3 or 4 different answers and I find it fascinating, and it's all in that latter stage WCW time usually.
I think it's probably Vader, but I actually liked the Cactus Jack stuff better.
Oh, Cactus Jack's a new one.
Yes.
Because I've had people say Vader. I've had people say Flair. I've had people say Rick Rude in that 91-92 time. Mine was Muda because I loved Muda and Sting.
It's a great one.
A lot. And I don't think you can go wrong with any of those. Because I mean, I just watched that 92 Beach Bash match. And Sting was on his game, and Cactus Jack was willing to do anything to get over. So, I mean, that was awesome.
So some of this has to do with when my fandom goes to 11, because while the Flair stuff was great, I was also like 11 years old and 12 years old when those early matches happened. Then I get I actually, this is so weird. Do you remember back in the day you had cable and they would have like the one local channel and it would just run the calendar events like in a scroll?
Yes.
So in the background of that blue channel with white font was something called the Cable Radio the Cable Radio Network.
CRN, yeah.
And on the Cable Radio Network was a show called Wrestle Talk or something. And the host was a guy by the name of Dynamite D, and he was out of the Slammers gym out of LA.
Huh.
And so he had all of this inside information. So when Flair goes to WWF in 91, I know through Wrestle Talk, and my parents thought I was nuts because there's nothing on the screen. It's like listening to radio through your television. They were like, I can't believe you're taking up the television to listen to this man talk. And so I'm almost sure that he was just reading the Observer is what I think was going on. But yeah, I was listening to this show probably from the spring of 91 all the way through probably 92. So when Abdullah comes and when Cactus Jack comes and Rick Rude comes and all that stuff happens, like I kind of know that that's happening. So it just makes me go from like a fan of wrestling to like, I want to know everything there's possibly to know about wrestling as someone who's like, 14 years old. So that time frame is when Sting is doing stuff with Abdul the Butcher. He's doing stuff with Cactus Jack. Lex Luger is there.
That'd be Jake also, wouldn't it? Jake Roberts.
Jake is there. Spin the wheel, make the deal.
Tony Atlas, Butch Reed, Dick Slater. All those guys are in that weird Island of Misfit Toys stable. I love those.
So that's where my Sting kind of thing happens. Though my best friend, Sting was his guy, so Sting couldn't be my guy because Hogan was my guy. So we would have these like little back and forths about Sting and Hogan and all that. So yeah, that's like my wrestling fandom as a teenager is all that stuff. So all right, that was an interesting way to start this, but I just wanted to do that because you have knowledge so much of that time frame that I'm sure a lot of people are not haven't been watching as long as us to even know about.
Yeah, it's sort of weird because your peak fandom is when I had to waver a little bit because I was just getting into college, and then I got into RSPW in like 92, and they were all cribbing Dave's stuff on Thursdays and stuff. So yeah.
Okay, so we're going to bring on some guests from other Fight Game Media shows. Kevin Ely, who has not been around these parts in a little while. He's going to join us in a sec. Jeremy Feinstone is also going to join us. Jeremy, I gave them both beats. I gave them both matches to kind of focus in on, and we'll bring them in to talk about it. But first, let's just talk about the Sting thing and how it happened, because I think a lot of us were kind of worried that it may not go the way that we wanted. I mean, the Young Bucks were the betting favorites for winning this match all throughout. And I'm glad. I should have put some money on Sting and Darby there. But and also there was this kind of up in the air kind of thing where we're like, how does this match not be the main event? And Renee Paquette continues to say that the triple threat is going to be the main event. So overall, thumbs up on how they handled it. Were you happy with Sting's last match here?
Yeah, I think you have to be. I mean, it was a little convoluted, but overall, I mean, you get to see Sting one last time in a hot crowd with Greensboro. I could have done without some of the supporting cast, but overall, big thumbs up for me. I enjoyed it for the most part. I know some people were upset about the glass too, but
okay. But here's my question to you.
Obviously,
with it being a 64-year-old man and just the optics of how, Sting and Darby against the Young Bucks, and it was obvious they wanted to smoke and mirrors the hell out of this thing.
So and I expected that too.
Yes, but did did you think that they over smoke and mirrors the whole thing?
No, I don't, because you had to do as much smoke and mirrors as you could for the 64-year-old man.
Yes.
And look, Sting still did. I predicted what he's going to fall from a great height into something.
He went through 2 tables.
The man no-sold a powerbomb through a table. That's impressive.
He ate double super kicks,
mm-hmm.
The EVP double knee. He fired up from all of that and ended up tapping out Matt Jackson to win the match. Okay, so this has to be a giant win for AEW, for Tony Khan. They've been, I wouldn't say, if you are a fan of Dynamite still, like, and you love that show, I get it. I understand it. I am kind of like every other Dynamite. I think is pretty good, and the other ones kind of make my head hurt.
Let
But
me pause you for a second. Is this the show as a whole or the Sting match?
sorry, I'm just talking about Dynamite in general.
Okay.
But with that being said, I was so looking forward to this match and this pay-per-view because of this match. And the presentation pretty much from I would say the day that they did the promo in Sting's house with Darby, from that moment on, I thought like this has been like maybe some of Tony Khan's best stuff. Just with the detail, and he loves the legacy stuff. He paid money to get music tonight. They had the visual of Sting's sons after the Young Bucks beat them up on that one television show. You brought Flair, you brought Steamboat. I saw Nikita Koloff cackling in the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
You saw Magnum TA. I know Lex was there. I don't think we saw Lex on television, but he was definitely there. So the whole presentation, like, there was a romantic aspect to this that played to you and I. Well, at the same time, you still had to give the fans maybe who didn't grow up with Sting, but are current AEW fans, you still had to give them what they wanted out of this. And I'm not sure. I mean, Tony's done great stuff. Like obviously the Brody Lee thing is the best thing that they've ever done. But this is up there to me. Just I thought they just hit it out of the park. Yes, Kevin mentioned Scotty Riggs as well. Scotty Riggs looking jacked, looking for a job, I think, was in the crowd there. He was looking big. But I just think, all around, this was just a tremendous presentation by Tony.
You know what? This was a love letter to people who had a sour taste in their mouth after that Mania match against Triple H.
Yeah, really I was there. I was live at that show. Just thinking like, man, these guys cannot get over the Monday Night War. What is going on?
Yeah. The only disappointment I had in that entire pre-show presentation was that neither TNA nor WWE gave footage to them, it looked like.
Yeah.
And that's just a shame. I mean, because he did a lot for that Mania and that build for Santa Clara, and he did a lot for TNA, and they should have volunteered footage if people wanted it. And now I don't know. Now I don't know if Khan. Yeah, I don't know if Khan went after it or not. But if he did, they should have volunteered it. Happily.
Yeah, that was what Dave said, was that as far as he knew, they weren't asked to provide. Now maybe Tony thought, well, we have the New Japan stuff, we have some All Japan stuff. And plus we have everything that he's done with us. Maybe we don't need to ask for that. So, but yeah, that would have been a nice touch to have a little bit more footage. They opened up this match by having him sitting in a theater, rewatching a lot of his old stuff, and him saying, it's showtime for the last time. I thought that was amazing. I don't have any complaints about this match, about this presentation, about the Bucks. Was it over the top? Hell yeah, it was over the top. It was gonna be over the top. And, I kind of did a little check, because sometimes when you watch something and you're a little biased, you're a fan, and I kind of think, okay, am I overreacting to something, for some reason whatsoever? And I kind of did a little check on my watch. I was like, okay, my heart is beating faster watching this match, and I'm not sure why. Is it the fear of, because I was fearful this entire match, watching this man do tons and tons of stuff that anybody can make a mistake, right? Anybody could have an accident. Darby goes through that sugar glass and just cut up like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of it, I was like, man, I was so happy that I watched that after it was done.
I caught myself looking around the arena to see if he could jump off like one of the tunnels to go on it. I go, it's too high. There's no way he's going to be able to do that. What are they going to do with him? And then it turned into the ladder spot. But yeah, I mean, I don't mind the Steamboat stuff. Flair was in and out, luckily, quickly. Well, as quickly as he could be.
I thought Flair was going to blade. I was ready to see it one more time.
I was waiting for him to turn on Sting and then and then return and then get double super kicked. The one son who went to Kentucky was fantastic. In terms of his leaping.
Yeah, the other one's a lot thicker than I realized. He played at
Azusa Pacific, if I recall, which is out here, which is a smart. I took a couple grad courses out at Azusa Pacific at one time, so I remember reading that about
Giants announcer Mike Kruko also went to Azusa Pacific.
Okay, yeah, no, it was. Here's what I want to know. I mean, if Sting's happy with it, and that's the way he wanted to go out, I'm fine with whatever, bells, whistles, guest stars, whatever he wanted to do, man. Because, yeah.
Now we got the finish that I thought was the right finish, which was him and Darby winning. And
he goes out probably being the only undefeated wrestler that AEW will ever have.
Yes. And I did a poll yesterday because I was very interested to see what people thought about whether he should win or whether the Bucks should win. And thanks to Sean Ross Sapp, who retweeted it and amplified the whole thing, I think we went from an expected 300 responses to like 2,000 responses. Thank you to Sean Ross Sapp. It was 62% to 38% for Sting and Darby. I thought it was going to be a little bit more like 70-30, but it did start to come down. And most of the reasons that people gave me were because it is, and I don't know if Vince McMahon's voice was in their head, but it is a professional wrestling tradition for the outgoing wrestler to lose the match and go out on his back. I was like, are we back in Montreal? What's going on? And so that was the reason. And I was like, that's like, there's not one reason for every scenario that exists of people losing, of people leaving. And I was like, nope, that's not the right thing. And it was amazing because I could almost tell where folks learned that. And I was like, you were all watching the Monday Night War. Like, that's where you got that from. That's the only way to do it.
No, Beyond the Mat.
Beyond the Mat. Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Number one, I'm trying to get Sean Ross Sapp to go to Bojangles and try Cheerwine. It's not working though. He's not.
How is he not going? Is he just doesn't want to ruin his diet?
I think he's gonna fly out. I don't think he's savvy to North Carolina fast food and the wonders of Bojangles and Cookout. But
he can get it at the airport.
Bojangles, maybe, yeah. Cookout, no, but Bojangles, I think, yes.
Yeah, not Cookout. We'll see. They won't have Cookout, but we'll see. When I was in Charlotte 2 or 3 years ago, it's definitely at the airport.
Yeah. So. Okay. I think that was actually Bojangles Arena they were at too.
Yeah.
Because I've been to Greensboro a couple times for the ACC tournament, so I remember that place fondly. Where was I going? I got on food. Yeah, where you learn that is I thought the thing was if they went second to last, like next to last, then the Bucks were gonna win. If they were the main event, there's no way they're letting the Bucks win. But it was one of those things where it's like, okay, if the triple threat is next to last, Joe's retaining. But if it's above them, then Sting's losing and Swerve's getting crowned. I thought that was how it was gonna work out.
I'm not the biggest fan of the Young Bucks as two sweet heels. I understand that was how they made a lot of their money. I'm not sure it works entirely on the national level, but those dudes get all the credit in the world tonight.
Oh yeah,
they were awesome.
They did yeoman's work in this match.
My goodness.
I mean, they were bumping like crazy. They were there to make the other guys look good. You can't complain. I mean, they were perfectly obnoxious. I howled at the homage to the HBK Flair spot where we don't like you, or no, was it we're not sorry, we don't love you, or whatever.
And we hate you, or something.
We hate you. Yeah, no, that was fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've been privy to the Bucks's, I always tell the story of the PWG match where they just did suck it and super kicks.
We're not sorry. We hate you.
We're not sorry. We hate you. No, that was fantastic stuff. Yeah, there was a little bit of acting in here. There's a little bit of a sketch comedy, so to speak. But overall, I have no complaints about this match.
All right, we're gonna bring on Kevin and Jeremy here in a second, but before we do, I want to do the Dave Meltzer best match, worst match with you, and then I'm assuming you thought the pay-per-view was a thumbs up, so we don't
Oh
even
yeah,
have to do thumbs up.
easy thumbs up. Pay-per-view might be the best they've ever done. Was definitely the best build they've ever done for a pay-per-view, I think, in their history.
Where are you with best match of the night? Because there are a few, and they're all different.
Yeah, I know, and I know a lot of people are gonna pick Ospreay Takeshita, and that's fine. I'm going with BCC FTR because
Okay.
that just goes to my sensibilities more
Right.
more than the other match. But I'm not shading that match at all. I think worst match we may not agree. We'll see. But what was your best match?
My best match. This is against my own sensibilities, like you just said, but I have to go with the main event, not
Okay.
because it wasn't the best wrestled. There was no highs and lows. It was just one sort of like climax. Like I understood what I was watching, but when I pull back and I go, what did I enjoy the most? I enjoyed that match the most. I would say
There is nothing wrong with that because I've picked some of those 6-man / tag match from Sting and Darby and whoever against whoever in the as my favorite picks of the match when there were like better Omega matches on there. So I have no problem with you doing that.
But as far as like Danielson and Kingston and Ospreay and Takeshita, if we're just talking like sort of natural story, that kind of match, I like Danielson and Kingston. But you know what Ospreay and Takeshita was like? I always go back to this match, which is Super Brawl 91, Sting and Luger against the Steiners, where it is just high spot after high spot after high spot after high spot. That was Ospreay and Takeshita, but on just like a way crazy level that you couldn't even imagine in 1991.
Right.
So they did insane work there as well. And for worst match, I think I don't want to say Storm and Diana because they were just put in a bad spot. And I haven't, the build for that match hasn't been fantastic, but I didn't actively dislike it.
Yeah.
As much as I disliked the scramble match.
Okay, good. Well, then we're on the same page. I thought the scramble overstayed its welcome. I think they should have cut it so that we could have gotten all of Sting's farewell speech instead of cutting off the satellite.
Yeah. And people got mad at that. I don't think they realized that Tony would have had to pay one more hour to get like 3 more minutes of Sting's speech in for the thing, and then they have to start the replay so much later.
Yeah, but I thought the scramble was overstaying its welcome. It should have been on a
Dynamite. I think it got better once they realized that you got to do the WWE thing where everyone sells on the floor and then you have 2 people or 3 people in the ring. I thought Dante Martin and Jericho were going to be the key to keeping that thing together, and Dante Martin maybe had his worst match ever in AEW, and Jericho was just not that person to be able to do it on this night.
No.
All right, let's bring in Kevin here.
Hi, Kevin.
Kevin Ely.
What's up, fellas?
Hey.
So before we actually even get to it, can we talk about the boom for a second and a half here?
Yeah.
So your co-host is it was in the chat, James B.
I believe he might be watching still, yeah.
So the boom has been on hiatus for a little while, and I just wanted to give you the opportunity to tell folks kind of like what's going on and what's up with the boom. How come they haven't been hearing the boom?
We got suspended for we popped a test and we're serving out our suspension. No, my dear co-host Peppermint Fatty had some medical issues pop up that took up all his attention, and so he's taking a little bit of time to recover and rest, and he's watching and been praying for him every day, and just all the best to remain Peppermint Fatty. But it also coincided with me being pretty overwhelmed at work and not able to watch a lot of wrestling. So we took a little time off, and as of right now, it's just kind of in limbo for a bit. And
Yeah,
I'm probably
and
just not going to force it back. And
like you said, James, I always say that James has got like the best if I wanted to have a podcast voice, it might be James's, but yours is the dulcet tones of Kevin Neely too. But just hope James, gets better, gets healthy, and this thing will be available around for James whenever he needs it. And for you as well, even if you guys can't do the boom, you're welcome to jump on shows like this. Maybe the boom gets changed around in a different way, because the thing that I've told people is most podcasts don't even make it to episode 10 because of how time sensitive it is. And then here we have Jeff doing double duty today. He was on the pregame show and now he's doing the postgame show. But it's a time suck, and it takes a lot of time, takes a lot of dedication. And it's hard. It's you have to keep up with the content, and the content has been a lot. So
it's been a lot.
Like I said, the boom. We will do whatever we need to do with
He has an open invitation to come on the Dynamite Show.
Absolutely.
I might just about be ready to take you up on that. I was jonesing pretty hard today, so I appreciate the invitation to come on.
We all need a break from Paul occasionally.
We don't. Paul,
no, I'm kidding.
I believe Paul is watching the main event as we speak. So I'm waiting.
I know. Yes.
I'm waiting for the post. I'm waiting for his post in the.
He's in our chats like, I just started the BCC versus FTR match. I'm like, dude, catch up. We're all marking over.
Any second now. I've got the Discord open, and he's gonna see that Darby, and I just can't wait to that glass spot. I can't wait to hear his reaction.
All right, Jeff and I gave our thumbs up, thumbs down, best match, worst match, and why don't we open with you? What are your thoughts? I'm assuming it was a thumbs up show for you as well.
Oh, absolutely, mate. I don't want to. I'm ready. Yeah, I'm ready to say that. It's I think the best pay-per-view they've ever done.
Okay,
I think
that was part of Jeff's poll.
Yeah.
What about best match, worst match?
I hate to be a cliche, but I've got to say Ospreay Takeshita. That's some capital, all caps, professional wrestling right there. Like the state of the art. Like there were things in that took my breath away when the match ended, and I let out some sort of guttural noise. I don't even know what it was. And then I looked around and I realized that I had my hand up like this. I didn't even realize that I was just holding my hand up in the air, because at some point I had just gone like this and just left it there and didn't even realize it. Like that match completely sucked me in. Ospreay's a dang star. I got goosebumps in his entrance, and and Takeshita is just like what you always hoped Barry Windham would be, in a way.
Muscular?
Plus, no, just like the way he moves, just this big, like, yeah. He's just that guy who can, like, 6'6" or whatever. See, I don't even know how tall he is, but he seems like he's gigantic, and he just sails through the air.
Kelly said he was 6'3", and I said, he has to be taller than that.
He looks bigger than that for sure. The Wyndham comparison is actually a pretty good one because of just that natural ability. Now, Takeshita is still a little young in his career, even though Barry kind of faded fairly quickly at his peak. I was just watching 89 Barry, and it was Barry and Lex at what was it? Chi-Town
Rumble?
Yeah, I watched Barry and Lex, and what a natural at everything. Like you almost forget how good Barry Windham was because we just haven't seen him for so long. All right, let's talk about the not main event, which was the main event according to Renee.
According to Renee,
she kept saying
it was all about that match.
Okay, I have been on record a lot saying I did not like the build to this match at all. I don't understand the Hangman character. I know a lot of people like it. I'm not saying you can't like it or you don't, or you can't understand what he's going through or whatever. I just don't like it as a pro wrestling story in order to get to where they want to get. I think is actually a negative to the build personally, but I think where they got to tonight was pretty okay. What were your thoughts on that world title match?
I was really into this match going in. I love the fact that all three guys are just totally over, and the crowd seems to really enjoy all three of them being in there. Hangman's slightly less because he's in the middle of a heel turn, but they're getting into booing him. They booed him pretty well tonight when he first came out. I've been enjoying Hangman going nuts, but I can't defend it, if that makes any sense. It just works for me. But I do think he went a little over the top with it during the match. Someone pointed out that ending would have worked really well. They had some really good camera shots tonight, and I think if they had lined up a shot where Joe was choking out Hangman and you made it clear that Hangman saw Swerve about to come in and break it up and decided to tap out, and made it explicitly clear. And they were on their game camera-wise most of the show, and I was a little disappointed they didn't get that, because then it was not clear that was happening. And then Excalibur decided to just say it.
Thank you.
Didn't quite make sense.
It's the worst thing they do is they tell us they're telling a story that they didn't tell in the ring.
Yeah.
And it's either, okay, did he screw up, or are you just trying to tell us this story?
Okay, but you know what you know why they have to do that though? Is because there is going to be a camera angle of Hangman looking at Swerve, and they're going to show it on a replay.
Yeah, they'll put it in some highlight
and then they'll use what Excalibur said in the thing. That's why they do it. But it was not clear when you were watching, even though based on the story that they told, that absolutely made sense. I'm going to play Brian Alvarez here for a second and say, if this is kind of like the heel ref thing to me. If Hangman only just wanted Swerve to lose, why isn't he and Samoa Joe making this a handicap match from the beginning? That's my question.
I think he does want. I mean, he kind of says secondary that he does want the title, but I think it's like he can't decide in the moment, which is more important to him. Which is where it starts to fall apart a little bit. But he is trying to win. But I think once he realized he was out, he decided, well, if I'm going to go down, I'm going to take Swerve with me, I guess. I don't know. I said, I can't defend it.
Because he wants to win the title first, and then, because that would be the ultimate spike of the football in front of Swerve. And then it's like, okay, if I can't have it, nobody else can have it. I adored Hangman beating up a ref. I'm sorry. I love that so much.
That was the best ref beatdown of all time.
I enjoyed that. Yes, he is a maniac. I think the only problem with this three-way is that Swerve's missing a little something as a babyface.
Okay, I see some of that in the chat as well. Especially the promos leading up to it. I thought him not seeing Hangman coming to attack him on Dynamite, I thought that kind of hurt him, because Samoa Joe knew that was coming. Us fans knew that was coming, and Swerve was just like, oh yeah, I respect you a ton. Let me just give you my back.
Well, what got him here was his savvy and his street smarts.
Right.
And he and being the baddest dog in the yard, so to speak. And he kind of loses that when, because he still has Nana there. He's still kind of a heel, but he's kind of morphing in front of us to being a, for lack of a better term, a stupid babyface, but still a babyface nevertheless. I mean, if he were a smarter babyface, he'd be using that cunning to know that the guy was behind him and all this. And it's a three-way, it's no DQ. Not using Nana's crown at the time is just a personal choice versus smart strategy kind of a thing.
Where do you think they're going with the next program based on what they did tonight?
I think Hero's Journey for Swerve, where he has to change his game up a little bit in order to win the title, and then he eventually wins it in a one-on-one. Maybe not against Joe, maybe against Hangman, to be honest with you. But I don't know. I think they need to get away. They need to get these three away from each other for a little while. I think this was a perfectly built feud, but now it's like Hangman needs to go off and do something else. Swerve needs to maybe Swerve Wardlow.
Interesting. Well, okay, so here was my thought, and I didn't think about this until the Ospreay match, and we're going to bring Jeremy on here to talk about that in a second. Once I saw Will Ospreay and how the crowd reacted to him, and I've been saying this for weeks, that this is really a test of Tony's ability to enhance somebody's star power, because Will's like the blue, like he's like the top prospect in baseball. He's like the can't miss prospect
Blue
right
chip?
now.
Is that what you're looking for?
I was gonna say the blue chipper, but then The Rock gets a cut if I say that.
That's right.
Oh, really?
Yeah, The Rock's got the trademark to that now. So he's already the best, arguably the best wrestler. If he's not the best, he's right there. And so now he's young. He's has this opportunity to be on this big stage. I think he needs to be the number one guy. And I think this is Tony Khan's opportunity to really show that he can make someone a star. And so as I was thinking that, I was like, okay, so I'm already thinking to All In and thinking, okay, well, Will's got to win the title at All In. And if he beats Swerve at All In, then that means we got to get Swerve the title. So how do we get Swerve the title? And as that match was happening, I was like, maybe Hangman should win this title so that Swerve could beat Hangman. But it was just a second guess thing, because I was just all in on Will Ospreay being the champion by Wembley.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's
got
too
a hot
quick.
potato for like the next 6 months. Yeah.
Right, which is what they don't do. And I said that to Dave. I said, maybe they should do that. And then I pulled back and I said, but they don't do that. And then Dave said, just because they don't doesn't mean it's not a good idea to do it, but depending on where you want to go. So, we all were sort of thinking, like, after that Will Ospreay match, we got to get the title on Will Ospreay at some point in the near future.
Yeah, because Swerve's title win has to be a big deal.
Yes.
It really does, because we've now emotionally invested a lot into the first Black AEW champion storyline. So it has to be a big deal, and it can't be just a 3-month title run to give it to, say, Ospreay either.
So if let's say he wins it at this newly titled Dynasty pay-per-view, April 21st, and if he loses at All In, it would only be a 4-month reign. And but I think when he wins it, it's going to be a big deal. But I did think if he won it tonight, I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. And I'm not sure how that crowd would have reacted. Maybe they would have reacted, but it's also the secondary main event to Sting. And so that is a little something there. But if we do push all of our chips in on him, I think it's going to be a really big moment for him and for the company, just from a pay-per-view audience perspective. So, but I'm with you. Like you have all of these guys, and you want all of them to be in the running, and then you start counting them, and there's like 7 or 8 guys who should be in the running, and it's like too many. Like it's got to be a headache for Tony. Not that having too much talent is problematic, but you can't.
It's a good problem to have.
You can't push out storylines for 4 years because you want these longish title reigns.
It's a good problem to have, but you need to have a plan for when they get the title and how you're going to present them. Because I'm still very critical of the Omega and Hangman first title runs. I think Joe is really the first solid guy that you look at and go, that's a world champion to me. That's a guy who carries the certain heft and regalness, for lack of a better term, of a world champion, versus Kenny was doing some weird heel performance art with Callis. Hangman was trying to get over by facing big guys and being a babyface in peril, but still doing kind of emo type promos. And then you had Jericho, who was being Jericho. Joe has really been the first guy to carry that title with that certain amount of toughness.
Yeah.
That I think you need for a world champion thing. And not that Will Ospreay isn't tough, but you need to think about, okay, once he wins and he gets the big pop, how is he a bigger star as a champion than he was on the Chase? Which is also going to be a problem in the other company, by the way, for one Mr. Rhodes, should he finish his story. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's all good stuff. All good stuff to think about, especially for those of us who have podcasts, because we could just keep talking about it. All right, let's bring on Jeremy here. We're going to talk about Ospreay and Takeshita. Jeremy, the host of Speaking of Strong Style with Stephen Conway, every Thursday on this channel. What's up, Jeremy?
Not much. Long time no talk, everybody. How you been?
All right, let's do the same thing. Best match, worst match. I'm assuming I watched it with you. I know that you thought it was a thumbs up show. But best match, worst match for you.
The Ospreay Takeshita match goes hand in hand with the Danielson and Kingston match. Two sides of a best match. Like one was physical and the other was the spectacle of best matches. And you could make an argument for either. I think I'm going to lean with Ospreay and Takeshita. And honestly, all the props in the world to that main event. I loved it. It wasn't 100% for me, but I loved everybody who loved it. I thought it was fantastic. What a way to go out. And for the worst match, probably the women's match.
Well, I didn't get your worst match, Kevin.
But does the pre-show count?
It can count if you want it to count. I didn't see I saw the tail
I just hate
end
hating on the
of the
I hate
women's
hating
match
on the Deonna match, but because it felt like it was almost it felt like one of those gosh, I hate to compare it to this, but it felt like one of the old Divas matches, not in the match itself, but how they placed it basically as a break. It felt like an intermission, almost like
it felt like a WWE match to me with that end with the the distraction by Mariah.
Yeah, that's true.
You had two distractions in the finish. Luther just walks into the ring so that Mariah can come in looking like Toni Storm, and so then she gets kicked. And then that allows Toni Storm to hit that short pile driver on Deonna. So it was very much like a finish on a show that was really over delivering, I thought. And then like I thought maybe if you don't have the scramble match and you put the women's match in that spot, the crowd probably sees it as bigger, and maybe the women get a little bit more motivated, because that's got to be a really hard place to be as a wrestler.
But Kevin, did you hate the tag match more? That's the question.
Which tag? Oh,
the Willow Statlander versus Sky Blue and Julia Hart.
It wasn't that awful. I probably liked it less. Yeah.
Well, when we say worst match, we're not saying it's terrible. We're just saying what was the worst worst match personally.
Yeah,
you know what? I'll give the Statlander and Willow thing a little bit of credit in that I kind of dig the story. I mean, it's a slow story, and they're not, it's Stokely and everything, but I kind of dig it. I like the characters involved, and I'm interested to see where they go with it. So I'm a fan of that, but. All right, so Jeremy, let's talk about Takeshita and Will Ospreay.
Yes.
I asked you to focus on that match specifically because it's you've been watching a ton of Will Ospreay ever since the Speaking of Strong Style debuted, and he got to show a U.S. pay-per-view audience what New Japan folks have been seeing for years and years.
He came off as the greatest babyface that you could possibly hope for in this match, top to bottom. He just seemed like he was ready for the Western, like the American style, because he's been wrestling in Japan, and there are slight differences to how they wrestle their matches, how they present their matches, how the matches finish. Many, many differences with the finishes of matches and how they book that. And what I saw today was the guy that is basically absolutely the face of this company going forward. And Takeshita held his own as well. It really does seem like the New Japan people coming over, including Okada, is going to change the face of this company. This is a end of a chapter with the Sting leaving, and it feels like with Mercedes and Ospreay and Okada all seemingly coming in or already here, we are in a new era and a new presentation of this wrestling. And when I watched this match, it was one of the strongest matches that Will Ospreay could have, but I didn't think it was one of the greatest matches that he's ever had. And I know that when we were talking in there, there were people that were saying like that was one of the best Ospreay matches that you'll ever see. And I felt like it was what he's been doing in New Japan with the Shota Umino match is one that I can think of, and the one that he had with Yota Tsuji, both back in the fall of 2023. Very similar matches, very similar in the presentation, him coming out on top. And we are going to get a lot more of this in the big matches, and I think we're going to get a lot of the daily tag level of Ospreay on the TV shows. I kind of wondered with Kyle Fletcher match being announced, if that's going to be the vehicle to bring in Okada, as in Okada being the backup for Ospreay, if there's some type of turn presentation happening with Fletcher, Callis, and Takeshita Wednesday.
They very quickly said that Fletcher and Ospreay were best friends.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, this may have been Black Scorpion magic, like Jeff and I were talking about earlier. All of a sudden, there was just a graphic of Fletcher and Ospreay having a match on Wednesday. And I was like, wait, like Ospreay, is he going to be ready by Wednesday? And aren't these guys best friends? Why are they wrestling? Like, what's the story? No one's telling us anything. And it just was on the schedule for Wednesday. So I guess we got to see what happens. Not that that's going to be, not that I don't think they're good, they can't pull it off. They totally could. I just wish I knew the justification behind the match. Like, I don't want to see Ospreay anywhere near an ROH television title.
That was like, please no, please no. Let's keep him away from that. There is a sense that if you're going to position this guy as the top babyface, right, he can't have dumb babyface energy. So if he thinks that he's going to get turned on in any way, shape, or form, he better be ready for that. And that was what I was batting around in my head, is like, if you're going to do this, and if you don't want Okada associated with the best friends coming in, how else are you going to do this?
DBE, dumb babyface energy. I've never heard that one before. Oh, okay. So here's a great question. And this is kind of goes to what Jeremy was saying about Ospreay. And I think I was saying it too, should be the biggest star. There's a guy who was running the show last year named MJF, who we all expect to come back at some point. But we were talking to Dave, and Dave thinks it's going to be later rather than sooner because he's dealing with some injuries. But MJF is going to be one of those 7 or 8 guys that we talked about whenever he does come back. And it kind of blurs the picture here because we know how much Tony loves MJF, and you can't have more than one world champion unless you want to create the Seth Rollins worker belt here. So I don't know what they do. I can't even think. My brain does not even let me think about what you could possibly do with MJF in 6 months. Like, does he just how do you bring him back? Like, Jeff, you're you've been talking about Dynamite for the last 2 years. Like, you saw the whole MJF thing. What are your thoughts on what they do when he comes back?
I forgot to mention MJF when I was going through my world champions, by the way. Okay, here we go. Well, MJF just used the title to show how big his personality could be, so he could get out of wrestling. Yeah. What do I do, or what are they going to do? Because my strong inclination is MJF comes back and we go right into MJF versus Undisputed Kingdom type of stuff.
Yeah.
And then it's like
9 months.
And I don't know. I mean, look, you are right. The top heavy stuff is getting there. I'd put a couple of these guys over on Collision and just let them have like 15 to 20 minute, maybe 30-minute bangers and just make that like a super show type of thing. I don't know. We need a Future Shock type pay-per-view now with like Jay White, Ospreay,
next year's
Okada coming in.
Going to be off.
Oh, yeah. It's an embarrassment of riches, but at the same time, you got to make these guys personalities somehow. And boy, I would not put Okada with the best friends. Good Lord.
It's gonna happen.
That's
It's
like
gonna
putting
happen.
the star quarterback with the chess club, as I
You're
said
gonna-
on the Power Bombshells today.
You're
That's
gonna
just
see Okada
ridiculous.
rolling up in that white minivan with Sue behind the wheel.
Oh my God.
Be
And you know
awesome.
the problem is we are going to dislike it. Now, not all of us. A lot
Some
of people
people are gonna love it.
will love it. He will probably really enjoy it because he's had to be the main guy
Yeah.
for how many years now, and he'll probably see it as a little bit of a break, and he
So-
makes more money. He has to do less, and then when they need him to rev it up, he'll rev it up, and he'll be the best guy that I've ever seen. So
Maybe he'll
yeah.
bring back Balloon Okada.
I just
We're running
that
around with the
mystique, man,
balloons.
he has such a mystique about him when he's booked at a high level that it'll be so tragic if they can't book him in a way where that at least is radiating from him at a lower level consistently rather than spotty whenever they feel like they need to heat him up. That's my worry. It's like I don't think that they can keep him elevated at the mystique that New Japan had, but they need to maintain like a baseline that is above what they do already.
They need to make somebody feel like a big deal.
Yes.
And that's going to involve them not being on TV every so often.
Mhm.
Yeah,
They
why
have
the
a
option?
pay-per-view named after Mercedes Moné that's coming. So I hope that is going to be her presentation, as she's going to come in as a pretty big deal, because not at the fault of Toni Storm or Deonna, but that women's title match was definitely like an afterthought on this pay-per-view.
Yes.
Mhm.
It was a lame duck match because everyone's waiting for Mercedes. And it's like Deonna or Tony, we all kind of figured it would be Tony, but either way, it's all just the runway for Mercedes and the presentation of Mercedes in the women's division and everything up to that point. Unfortunately, they haven't built anybody to the level that is like can match that Mercedes energy even at her lowest. So we're trying to figure out who it's gonna be, but it doesn't even feel like Tony or Deonna are the best candidates. And Garrett, when we were talking at the show and on the Discord, who is on the rankings number 2 and number 3 women?
We haven't even seen the rankings.
I haven't seen the rankings in like a
coming up?
month.
Like since February 10th, it was Hikaru Shida at number 3 and Thunder Rose at number 2 and Deonna
Shohei Ohtani's wife. Oh, that was debunked.
Wow.
We debunked that one.
that was bad.
Yeah, that was not
one.
great.
Yeah, so we're looking at Thunder Rosa, and even that it's just kind of like cool. Like
Yeah,
there's nobody to heat up to be ready for Mercedes to make it a big deal, and that's part of the problem.
All right, let's talk about Moxley and Claudio. Jeff, I'll let you take the lead a little bit on this one. Moxley and Claudio come out in Road Warrior-esque shoulder spikes for
JCP Road Warrior spikes, not those cheesy red ones.
Nope.
I had no idea that they were Road Warriors fans, Legion of Doom's fans. But I mean, if there's a show that you're going to do it on, this is the one that you would do it on. And they got to fit. They faced FTR in a match that, when it was designed, I thought FTR was going to win and Claudio was going to take the loss. That was my original thought. I didn't think Moxley was going to lose because Moxley's got a match with Tetsuya Naito coming out in 5 or 6 weeks here. But then Moxley and Castagnoli beat FTR in a really, really good match, which is Jeff's match of the night. Take us through this one, Jeff.
The irony of this match is that FTR had to play the Rock and Roll Express all night in terms of being like undersized baby faces facing much bigger heels. I was shocked by the end of this match too, because I thought this was pretty much what I thought it was going to be, which was kind of a love letter to Carolina style tag team wrestling.
Yes.
With it, and I thought, okay, they're tipping the hand. Is going to be what, Road Warriors versus Tully and Arn type of a booking thing here, or whatever. But it wasn't that at all. Dax and Cash were like, they were baby faces in peril all night. It was kind of fascinating. It was fascinating to watch that, but like their comebacks with chops and punches and were great. You had a couple Steiner moves, you had a couple Tully Arn moves, you had a lot in there. It's interesting to see them heat up the Blackpool Combat Club like this as a tag team, because I thought, it was interesting because I thought maybe this would give us a clue who was winning the main event, because if
Right.
the Bucks were getting the tag titles, and FTR was a natural fit, or even if FTR wins this and then Darby would pick like an Adam Copeland, but according to Sean Ross Sapp now, it doesn't look like he's going to be picking a new partner, that they're just going to throw these into a tournament. Maybe they're building them up for the tournament. I liked it. I actually, let me ask you guys this. I thought the Dax blading was a bit much for that spot. Yeah. It didn't feel like it had achieved a level of violence where Dax needed a blade. I think it was almost like blading for its own end, and with commentary talking about it so much, it became distracting for me.
I felt like even Moxley was like looking at him like, really? Like even Moxley,
really, a throw into the post and then hitting the stairs on the outside. That's gonna make you blade there, huh? Okay. Yeah.
It's Carolina. He's like,
what a Greensboro, right?
Okay, here's the thought. So much like you, Jeff, we were kind of thinking about if this match is going to lead us anywhere where the main event is concerned. And Dave thought, he's like, if if the Bucks are winning, I don't actually see FTR winning, because it's kind of like a political minefield to book that match and to figure out where you're going with that match. But then when the BCC won, I thought, okay, well, maybe this tournament, maybe, FTR's already made as a tag team, and they kind of talked about it in the announcing. It was like, I don't remember, somebody said it, but it was like, oh, Moxley and Castagnoli are kind of finding their own as their tag team, as a tag team. They're kind of like reaching their potential as a tag team, as if like they were just brand new put together tag team or something. And so I thought, okay, well, maybe they're trying to build these guys up as a viable candidate to win the tag titles, whereas the Bucks are already there, FTR is already there, Starks and Big Bill are already there, and so this victory was to kind of put them in that echelon.
Well, here's where having the additional pay-per-views comes into play, I think, because if you only have the straight 4, the straight 6, or whatever, and now we're getting 9 or 10, you're going to need those extra 1 month build into a champion type of thing, so that those types of things are going to get rushed. Because I was saying, okay, I think I thought the natural progression, or at least for one of the big shows, is FTR versus Edge, or not Edge, but Adam Copeland and Christian.
Yes,
in some way, somehow. So I was trying to figure out, okay, how do I get from this show to that show? And I was saying, okay, Darby and Sting win. Darby picks Adam Copeland. Copeland eventually turns on Darby and brings the tag straps over to Christian.
That's how I booked it in my head too.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but hey, now we're gonna have roadblocks here, and we can take our time, kind of, I guess.
I think you also just booked Edge's retirement, by the way. That's gonna be his retirement.
Yeah,
possibly, but it's one of those things where I don't like the addition of these extra pay-per-views, because I feel like Tony already rushes booking far too much and doesn't let things build and breathe. And this is gonna be like when WCW went to 9 or 10 and then 10 to 12 pay-per-views, and it was just rush everything, and nothing felt organic or had a lot of heat to it. It was just, this is the next match we're going to do. That kind of stuff. But back to the actual match. Claudio as a giant in this match was so fantastic at times, I thought. Almost Satnam level giant in there.
He almost killed Dax one time.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did.
But you look at Moxley's what, 6'4"?
I've
maybe 6'3".
I think he's about. I would say he's closer to 6'2", 6'2.5".
6'2.5". Claudio's 6'5", 6'6", I think. And then you have Dax and Cash, who are 5'10". It was an interesting dynamic. I thought Cash Wheeler really had his working boots on tonight.
Cash
I don't know if you guys thought
boots.
the same. Well, no, he's always had. I mean, like he did like usually he does one dive. He was doing 2 or 3 dives tonight out
He's
there in front. I think he had his family in the audience too, so it was one of those types.
Maybe
of
also
situations.
getting good standing with the boss, considering
maybe, but
what might be coming up for him.
Cash, I realized, so a couple of weeks, was it a week before last, the Dynamite, the first of this match, I got to see in person, and it was like 4th row, so I got to be pretty close. Cash is one of the best, like, up close wrestlers I think I've seen in a long time. He is so believable up close. Like, he's just really snug, and he's so underrated. And it was the Briscoes matches where I was like, I think, like I used to say, Dax Harwood's my favorite wrestler for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Cash is the man, and he's sneaky jacked.
It's that power lifter body, like Arn in his early
Yeah.
days type of a thing. Yeah.
Right.
One of the things that,
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
One of the things that I noticed about setting up Moxley and Claudio is that, Jeff, you were talking earlier, it's real busy at the top in the main event scene. And there's a real possibility that Moxley might be having a title with New Japan for the next few months going into the summertime. But if that's not the case, him running stuff on the tag division is a much excellent place for him to be. Keeps him out of that. Then when it's time to bring him back into the fold, it's fresh. And there's a lot of people coming in, and there's not a lot of room at the top right now. So maybe
same with Jay at the trios. It's like they have all these guys who could be. They have 15 guys or 10 guys that could be top 5, and they need to find places to put them that's meaningful. And I'm not saying the trios division is meaningful, but it seems like they're taking some of these guys and sidelining them onto these little side quests to just keep them out, because you can't have Moxley going out there and cutting a Moxley promo every week and not give him a title shot at some point.
I mean, he's talking about being the guy to run the show in 2024, and now all of a sudden we're talking about him like being the head of the tag team division. So it is a little weird.
He's one of the 7 or 8, right? But he's also had the belt a couple times, so we're not putting him at the forefront of that line.
I mean, you get rid of some of these geeky factions that they have at times, and you give me a deep tag division, I'm not going to complain.
No,
I mean, if you have anything like that 86, 87, like Crockett state where you had where you had Fantastics, Midnights, Rock and Roll, Arn and Tully, or Ole and Arn, and the list goes on and on. I mean, if you had an 8 or 9 or 10 deep tag team division where everybody's a freaking killer, I'm here for that, man.
Okay, here's a question for you, because you're the JCP guy.
Yeah,
I've always thought about this. Now with AEW, maybe it is actually viable. I know nobody is going to do a show that is all tag team matches. Like this, it's too gimmicky. We know that. Look, but here's what we've learned from shows that have tournaments, right? Is that those shows don't draw as well if you don't have a main event match that is there to draw, because the fans don't want to put their money in without knowing exactly what they're going to get. I think that's kind of similar with like a Crockett Cup kind of thing, but I always thought it would be a fantastic special or something. Like you could even do 2 different nights. We have this silly show that this 1 hour show every couple months. What is the Battle of the Belts?
Battle of the Belts.
We have a Battle of the Belts show that never means a damn thing. And if you wanted to gimmick it up by making it about a tag team thing, like I think it'd be an interesting thing, because like you, I would just love to see these tag teams just go nuts and be the focal point for a show. And maybe if it's not a pay-per-view, you don't have to sell it, but it can't do worse than Battle of the Belts ratings wise, right? Like
I would be fine with it, but you need to. I mean, the problem with a lot of these tag teams is they can't cut promos, or they don't have time to cut promos, and you'd really need that. I think that's one of the reasons why the shows you're talking about are so low rated, unless they have a singles match on top, is because they actually build that singles match.
Yeah.
At times, like, don't get me wrong, I loved that Claudio Mox promo from Collision last
really
week. I thought that was great. These guys need promo time to build those types of feuds so that when you watch that show and it's like, okay, you're 8 deep and you got a bunch of badass tag teams who can talk. God, I wish Jay Briscoe were still alive.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And then you go, okay, now we got the baddest of the bad tag teams in here. Let's see who can go. You know, Dax and Cash can bring it at times on the thing. Mox and Claudio can bring it on the stick. The Bucks can occasionally bring it when they're motivated to cut a decent promo.
And Phoenix are around, even though Phoenix is injured. Like, that's not a tag team. That's not, you can throw them in there.
Yeah, you can throw them in there. I mean, from a work rate perspective, you're fine. It's just from a build perspective, you have to think of a reason to get all these teams into a thing to beat them, and then you have to get some heat on it. And that's always kind of been their problem is getting the heat in there. No, like I liked Proud and Powerful versus the Best Friends, and that weird a street was it a street fight or was it anything where they really they're slamming each other on top of cars and stuff like that, but they never really got into a heated confrontation to get there. I think it was like Orange Cassidy got beat up, and then so they decided to have a street fight.
Okay, you're also the improv guy.
Yes,
you mentioned the Moxley and Claudio promo. Whenever Moxley goes, Claudio, what am I thinking? Is Claudio like a beat and a half behind every single time? He knows it's coming.
Well, no, but Claudio's also translating Moxley's promo into a different language, so so it takes.
True.
But that's the worst thing too. Is somebody is like, here, read this. What does it say? I can say anything, right? But it's also one of those weird things where when you're not a comfortable actor, you take that and go, okay, you just made me look like a jerk. but if you're comfortable with it, they go, here, what does this say? You go, oh, it says right here. It says that. Says that you're a hermaphrodite. What is that? That kind of thing. You just kind of go with it and you just say something.
I would love it if Claudio said that.
and then you make them uncomfortable and you can do it that way. But yeah, no, it's a jerk move to do on a stage if you're not comfortable with the guy or if you're just trying to put him on the spot. It's obvious that Claudio can talk in his own way and everything, but it's also very clear he doesn't necessarily enjoy that part of the wrestling thing.
I thought you were segueing into a Kevin Kelly conversation there for a second, but we were not going there.
No, Hermie.
Okay. Roderick Strong and Orange Cassidy. I think I was most surprised by this match as far as the story of this match, because Roderick Strong just dominated the shit out of Orange Cassidy. Almost the entire. We saw how many different backbreakers. We saw Orange selling. Now they kind of gave us the idea that this dude is hurting, which is kind of his story all the time with all the tape, the kinesiology tape. And his whole storyline has been, he's just getting jumped by tons of people all the time and he's taking beatings, but he's escaping by the skin of his teeth. But here, Roddy wins very impressively. Roddy is the new champion. This was the only championship change, I believe, on the show. And I thought it was like the best Roddy Strong has looked in either WWE or AEW. I don't know the knowledge of all that ROH TV from back in the day, but what an impressive win. It really made him look like somebody in beating Orange Cassidy. Kevin, I'll let you go first on this one.
Yeah, it's like he's been just saving up all those backbreakers for how many years he's been, or how many
he also
months
needed a guy
who
he can throw in the air, right?
Yeah.
That was also part of it.
For sure. And I've never seen them against each other before, but I'm sure they've been around, many, many times. But I liked it, but all I could think during it was how much better this match would have been if Orange Cassidy had beaten Jon Moxley back in November and had the title this entire time. Because we've already seen the match where Orange Cassidy is just too hurt to get it done. And so it felt a little, I don't know, it felt, I don't know if it was just because everyone expected it. It felt a little anticlimactic to me watching it, even though physically it was very, very impressive. And what was the move he did where it was like a power bomb, but he basically just dropped him chest first on the corner turnbuckle?
I thought that was back first. I thought it was basically like a back.
Was it back first?
On that
it was
top rope. Yeah.
Yeah. That was one of the many
gross.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ospreay took
spots.
Ospreay took like a brain buster in that way too.
Yeah. Ospreay saw that and was like, all right, no, dude. Hold my beer.
Roddy was motivated. Yeah. He was definitely motivated tonight.
To me, I think I think Roddy looked great. I think it set him up for possibly having a good reign where he can build up some credibility by actually beating some dudes. But coming right after the Wardlow match, I think they missed the opportunity to like use this to actually kind of build Undisputed up a little bit. They had
Yes.
those two matches back to back, and they had Adam Cole come out for the Wardlow match, and they'd do nothing. He just sat in his wheelchair, and at the end of the match, they didn't even cut to him. And I thought, now would have been a good time to bring Adam Cole into the ring with Wardlow and talk about how, hey, the plan's coming together, Wardlow's its thing, and now here's Roddy Strong, and have a great promo in between.
But didn't
that's like,
Wardlow shit on that
Undisputed's-
whole plan like a couple weeks ago on his promo, right? He was
Did he?
like, yeah, he was just saying how he's gets screwed all the time and that he's coming to get the belt that is his.
Oh, yeah.
Even though Adam Cole told us Wardlow's actually
Yeah.
winning the belt for him. So I don't know. I
That's
wonder
right.
if they
He's going to give it to him.
yeah,
I don't
wonder
know.
what they're doing there.
It feels to me almost like they're giving up on that faction just as a faction. Other than
It
just kinda
does. It does seem that way. It's almost like they want us to think that storyline is on ice, or
Yes.
we're not supposed to think about that. But here's the question: is Adam Cole obviously can't wrestle, but Adam Cole's best quality is not actually his wrestling. It's like his charisma and his talking, and they're not
Mhm.
even letting him talk right now necessarily. After that was kind of the whole story of the devil and everything, and now that's the opportunity to continue that storyline, and it seems like they've iced it in some weird way.
Is it just because MGF's not there? So it's almost like they iced it because Adam Cole got hurt, and they thought, oh, we can just sort of like literally just put it in deep freeze, and it's not literally at all.
The
But
problem is they have a
put it
much
in
more
deep-
interesting heel stable in AEW in the Callis family.
yeah,
To
yeah,
be the
better.
big bad.
True, I would agree, but it just seemed like the whole turn at the end of World's End was to
Yeah.
make Adam Cole into this top star, and then we just haven't seen him. It's almost like they
But
don't
the
want him
story
to
is
talk.
that he
for-
broke MGF's heart, and then MGF disappears. So it's
Mm.
like the other half of the story isn't there. So it seems like they're just sort of trying to stay on cruise control until he comes back. But then MJF will be huge return to a kind of half-baked, lukewarm stable. Unless MJF really wants that international title.
You guys are really convincing me on this lukewarm thing. I was so frustrated when you had Wardlow win this match, and then you saw the Undisputed Kingdom cheering outside by the announce table, and then them not walking up to the ramp so that they're waiting for Roderick Strong, because the Undisputed Kingdom literally went up the sides of the ramp to the back and walked right back out with him. For them all to not be together, have like that photo op moment as one is victorious, like patting him on the back, come on, you got this, and just really like selling that this stable is a priority and important. They did it to themselves. They had the opportunity and they didn't take it. I'm with you guys that they are icing the stable until they're ready for it, which I feel like is a bad move. You need to be heating up all of these factions for the point that you really want to set them into overdrive. This isn't like, wait. If these guys are important, continue to make them important.
That's interesting because at least in terms of wrestling, watching this was Roddy as PWG champ, like circa, I think 2016 or something like that, when he was on fire as a heel in that small building. I mean, cutting promos, some of which were a little problematic on some people there. I have a question about that mask and bedsheet thing he was doing though for the entrance. Though, what was that all about?
I think the knock on Roddy had never been his wrestling; it's been his charisma and his ability to connect with the audience. And I think that was an attempt again to connect with the audience with some type of gimmick. They're like, "Oh, hey, that's cool. He's got that kind of Shield Taiji Ishimori like shooter fighter mask, and then like I'm coming in there and I'm a rogue from the kingdom, because they got the Undisputed Kingdom thing. So I think it's all kind of figuring into that kind of gimmick.
I hate to dip into my JCP again, But hear me out here. Roddy's charisma is second guy in a stable to the charismatic guy.
Sure.
He's Tully to Adam Cole's Flair.
Mm-hmm.
He, the guy who's feuded with him before, who could turn on him at any time, but he's playing second banana in this thing for as long as he chooses to play second banana kind of thing. There's always that menace of Roddy turning on Cole eventually, but it's one of those things but he's good at that. He's good at the bratty heel charisma that, other guys kind of soft pedal, like say Miz, and others like that. I mean, Roddy plays that perfect, and that's what he should be doing. And instead, he's dressing like MF Doom coming out for.
And yet they always seem to try. I think about the Diamond Mine where they try to put him in the front of that. So they're basically like, you know what? You are not going to be the face of this faction. We're going to flip over to the Creeds over here.
It's funny that Jeff said that, because I've actually hung out with Roddy Strong in Vegas, and it was just he and our good friend, the Peach Machine, and Roddy and I forget the other person. Roddy was trying to be Ric Flair. He was not succeeding at being Ric Flair. I don't think it was I think because he was I was
about to say it was Paul that was with you guys, because he's told me this story.
Oh, Paul was there too. So okay, but no. There was a portion of that evening where just the three of us pieced off, and it was like me and him. So I actually got to spend a little bit of time with him, and I knew him decently, but I hadn't really seen a lot of his wrestling. But this is when he wasn't in the crazy, insane shape that he's in now. He was a little pudgier, and Peach Machine was helping him with his dieting and such. But because he was pro wrestler with a bunch of wrestling fans, he needed to portray that he was like Ric Flair, and he was just really bad at it. And I was just like, okay, I kind of get it. I'm sure when he is like his normal self, he's probably a cool dude, but he was kind of like not that cool of a guy there. And he was just trying to portray something that I could tell that he wasn't. So Paul says, I got Peach Machine in trouble because I was supposed to kayfabe that Roddy had the hots for Marina and didn't. That's funny.
It all worked out, I think.
Okay, so what do we think about the Kyle O'Reilly part of this? So he shows up. Now there were some interesting emotions from Kyle. Mm-hmm. So he kind of shows up in the back, and we're thinking that he's going to attack Roddy. He's got like this weird, crazy look on his face. They did not tell him to come in his Sunday's best. That is for sure.
He went to Goodwill before he came in the ring.
I thought he shot up over to REI first.
I guess he was wearing an All Japan women's shirt, somebody said, but then he was wearing like green gym shorts that he bought at Target. And like that's how he came out on this pay-per-view. We haven't seen this guy in over a year maybe. And so his emotion was that we are supposed to believe that he may attack Roddy. And then he kind of smiled, and then they were friends, and then they wanted to give him the shirt. And then he was almost like, no, like I can't take this shirt. What was that supposed to signify? What did anybody get what that was supposed to mean?
I kind of thought it was. Oh, go ahead.
Just probably the same thing. That it's like, hey, I'm going to go my own way. No hard feelings, but I'm going to do my own thing and be in opposition. But I don't know. He looked pretty upset about it too. Like he also looked like he hadn't slept since the last time he was on TV.
Yeah.
God bless him. I'm a big fan of his, but
he's awesome.
But man, it's one of those things where it's like, what's the thing where you think that the mystery is going to get someone intrigued, and all it does is just kind of make you okay, and then move on. It's kind of my reaction to it.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a character choice. I think it's going to be unstable and weirdly and it's going to be I've been pulled in so many directions as I've teamed with all these people, and I don't know what It feels like that. This feels like he's made a character choice. Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much.
So Andy said that he thought he was going to announce his retirement. Now I didn't think that. What I thought is that he was going to say he wasn't ready yet, or he's still injured and he wants to, but he can't for some reason. That's maybe what I thought. But at the same time, if he's going to be on, if they put him in this position for a reason, they wanted all those eyeballs on him. So he's got to be involved in some way. I don't imagine they did that just so he could, and maybe you don't want him to retire since Sting is going to retire on the same show, but it's just an interesting choice.
If he was going to retire, they'd give him his own night in whatever hometown in Canada or whatever to do it there. This was an angle.
Yeah.
Could it be a placeholder for you? Please go ahead.
I definitely read it as like he saw that shirt and he flashed back to what got him to the position of being out for a year. And he's like, I can't do that again. Here's your shirt back. I love you guys, but I can't do that again. And then he's like, sorry. And he made this decision 2 days ago, realized he couldn't get on a flight. And so he's been on a bus for the last 2 days. And he just got
plane, trains, and automobiles.
And
maybe Mike Bennett just needs to wash that shirt. That's probably
He's like, I'm not putting that shirt on.
There's no fabric softener on this.
He looked like he was in good shape, at least. Like he looked like he was fit.
Definitely conversation we were all having of like, what if Kyle O'Reilly coming back?
Yeah.
And there he was.
All right, we can going to be like a placeholder for MJF.
Interesting.
Just to give a program there for a foil for the
to get Cole over more as a heel and everybody else as a heel. Yeah.
All right, we don't need to talk too much about this match. The Wardlow wins the scramble match. I mentioned how I thought it was a bit of a mess. I do think it got better at the end. We were having this discussion on why Magnus needed to be in this match. There is a relationship there. I don't know that it did anything for Magnus necessarily. He just looked like the lost luchador in the match. I don't even remember him doing anything. He didn't do anything that stood out. That's
actually a gimmick they now do in these matches with AEW. It's like it's Commander or
yeah.
But he didn't even have the Commander spot, right? Because at least Commander will do the spot where he walks the rope and he does I don't remember what Magnus did in this match. And when we were talking to Dave, he was like, yeah, he's kind of a mid-card guy. I don't like there wasn't a reason. There wasn't a reason for him to be in it other than, I guess, to, just being a good partner with CMLL, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But so Wardlow wins and he gets a title shot. They did not say when, they did not say where. Hopefully he cuts a promo on Wednesday and tries to call his shot, because Wardlow and Samoa Joe had a feud that was, I would say it was a little bit better than average. There's meat on the bone there that they just did not get to, but they tried. They had some matches. They had the story. And now Joe's the champion, so that adds a layer to the story. But this is an interesting time for Wardlow because it's pretty clear that they want him to be part of that 7 or 8 or 9 that we just talked about. But what he has done in the opportunity, I'm not sure if he actually fits those 7 or 8 guys that we're thinking about for title shots and such. Anybody have thoughts on his character?
He's either going to get the problem with him is he's either going to get the shot and win and not be the guy who needs, and everyone will just be like, why is this guy over all these other guys the champion? Or he's going to get the shot and lose, in which case he goes right back to, just bounces right back to what he said he wasn't anymore, which is the guy who gets bumped down the mountain. So he's kind of in a no-win situation, I feel like.
I think it's even worse than that. If he wins, everybody's going to be going, okay, who's he dropping it to? Because they instantly think transitional champion. And it would be a nice thing to experiment to see what you have with this guy. But, Tony Khan sits there and I could see him worried about the cage match rating for, okay, when I put him in a match against Ospreay
Right.
or Okada or whatever, is it going to be a world champion type thing, or do I just need to get this title off of him on a Dynamite or something, in a match there, and we can just say, oh, what a great job you did at the time. And yeah, no, I actually think you need to make him the alpha of that undisputed stable.
Probably.
He and Cole need to do the Batista Triple H thing.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, just he go, look, cripple, or whatever, and just cut a promo and go, you're unable to go, you're not giving the orders around here anymore. Do a Mac and me with him in the wheelchair, cliff, and then just have Wardlow go on his merry way and be the leader of this faction. Because I thought the promo he cut 2 weeks, or was it last week or 2 weeks ago?
Last
was
week,
fantastic.
yeah.
I love that thing.
I know people don't like it when we say this, but I kind of just wish he was in WWE, because I feel like they would know they're more comfortable knowing what to do with guys like that, or how to tell if they can sink or swim, more so than what they're doing with him now.
Yeah, I'm kind of in this boat too, where they've kind of booked him into a corner where it's not the right time for him to get that big belt, but they're booking him as if they're a threat for it. And if he doesn't get it, and they haven't booked it in a way where it's like, you knew that belt was his and he got screwed, like majorly screwed, I don't think they have the vehicle to make that story happen. And I think that that's a problem, because if he loses clean, or he loses in a way where it's just like, okay, back to the line, even though like we built you up as a monster, that's counterintuitive to everything.
We have 60 titles in this company, and we're getting him ready for the world championship, and he needs that title. And it's like, yeah, it's one of those things where he's been around so often or so much that we know what we have with him, but we've never really pulled the trigger on him because of, because MJF had a temper tantrum once or something. Yeah, so it took away his.
Danielson and Eddie Kingston, they set the tone for this show. It was an excellent match. I thought it was an excellent story. I guess there's a video on Twitter after of them in the locker room. I don't know what happened in that video, but I guess there's a lot of people like that video. The whole match was about Eddie Kingston's right hand, and then right arm, and then right shoulder. And he had to fight in the last 5 minutes of the match, basically left-handed. Danielson had hit a couple of knees. He even kicked the hand one time as the bad hand. Eddie clotheslined him and powerbombed him to win the match. We had this conversation. At what point, like, how many of these matches on his way out should Danielson be winning? Because I wanted to see him win this match, because I wanted to see him do these dream matches that he's having, but having that Triple Crown championship, because it sort of means something for him to have all these matches against people who were not in AEW. But on the other hand, Eddie Kingston's kind of the perfect champion as well for the belt, and he's been doing a great job, and it gives him something to do. I kind of worry about his booking if he doesn't have this title. But yeah, like, Brett, we're going to go through this retirement thing with Danielson at some point, probably very soon. They won't do it the same way, but Danielson loses a lot for somebody who we all think is kind of the top guy. And I just wonder if that is the best for whatever story they're telling him. Jeremy, you can give the first shot here.
Just look at the match for Danielson to win for a variety of reasons. That strong title for New Japan is an albatross as much as it is valuable, because New Japan still wants some control over that belt, and they still have plans for it, like with the match against Gabe Kidd that's coming with Kingston, and they probably want that belt to be there because there is value to it. So there always seemed like Kingston was going to be the guy that wins this match. When it comes to Danielson needing to win, I don't think that he needs to win everything. I think that we are in the cluster from January till now that if he lost all of these and then he just goes back to winning, no one's going to remember that he lost a bunch of these matches in a row to Zack Sabre Jr., to Okada, and then to Kingston. And these are all top caliber people. These are not, this isn't unfortunately Dante Martin or any of the guys on the mid card or Daniel Garcia that he'll have matches with from time to time. Like, these are world title, like, candidates for Hall of Fame, all of them that he is losing to. So it is not the worst thing in the world. I just think that with the title, with New Japan, that Continental Classic title, man, when they flip it, it will be a thing, but you have to read a lot of tea leaves for it, everything to seem to line up for that title to move hands anytime soon.
Kevin, why don't you give a shot?
I mean, the thing that struck me when I was watching it, because I agreed that Danielson needs to be put in some sort of title picture, and needs to hold a belt before he retires in AEW. But as I was watching the match, it all kind of put together to me of this long-term storyline of Eddie Kingston against the Blackpool Combat Club, starting with the long-term story with Mox, the feud with Claudio, and then going on to Danielson. This sort of credibility mountain that Eddie's been climbing. Watching this match really felt like, wow, he really has become that guy who's not just like the kind of schlubby brawler, and I prefer the brawler to the All Japan guy, but as long as we're going there, to watch Danielson work with him, and kind of give him that credibility by giving so much to him. I just liked it. I love feuds that end in handshakes too. I'm always a sucker for that.
I thought Jeff said the opposite in other places.
I did. after the Blackpool Combat Club tag match, I go, what is this respect crap? I'm so tired of it.
Yeah, that's true. I did think Brian oversold it a little bit. Like he just flipped the switch too easily, and that's my problem with Bryan Danielson, is how he flips the switch from I'm a total heel who's just gonna bag on you and say the worst things to like I'm go babyface, happy I love everybody guy. And I thought that he should have been a little more begrudging in the end there, where it's like, all right, fine, I'm shaking your hand, raise his hand, go away. Was it Jeff? Were you the one who said he should have raised the injured hand?
No, that wasn't me. That was somebody else.
I wanted him to squeeze
like,
the hand a little bit.
Yeah.
just to show a little bit of dominance. Like,
well, he tried to raise the
hand.
injured hand, and I think Eddie shoved him away. So
yeah, Eddie
kind of
said no.
Yeah.
But then he let an Eddie chant, and I was like, that's a
match,
little much.
Yeah.
It was a great story match, I thought.
Yeah, when you talk about storytelling in a match, this is what people mean. It's like they work a body part. They tell a story. It's like they're going to incapacitate this person and their ability to execute their finishers and their moves on you. And the strategy of it, this is the kind of storytelling that I love. I mentioned it earlier, but this match was divine. I could wake up tomorrow and decide that this was my favorite match of the pay-per-view, and in 2 days decide that Ospreay Takeshita was my favorite match. It is not firmly set in stone, and on any given day, I could waver back and forth. They were both that good.
Jeff, why don't you wrap us up on this one?
I remain somewhat frustrated at Bryan Danielson's AEW run, because I don't think he's going to win a big match until he retires. And even then, he may not win that last match. I agree with everybody here. He needs a title, or he should have had a title run by now, because that would make money and that would make a star in AEW, and then he could use that to do that. I mean, if he had been given a world title, and then, you have the big guys like Okada and Takeshita, and all these other bigger guys, and then you end it with him losing to Ospreay or something like that at the end of his career or whatever. It's fine. That would have been interesting to me. I just think they've been burning. This is like the Joker burning money in the Dark Knight, and you're just watching it going. You had this, and all he and of course, but you have to go against Danielson's instincts too. Where
Right.
I just want to have these good matches no,
Wrestling
you
Legends
are a star.
Fantasy
You're the
Camp.
most over guy we have in this company.
Mhm.
Let's put the rocket to you. Let's get this company a little bit higher profile and let's use that. And he's like, nope, don't want to. And you're just meh. You know, I like Eddie Kingston. I didn't love this match as much as the rest of y'all did. I liked it a lot. I just went, okay, that's fine. I thought the video was very good though. The whole video was Eddie Kingston thanking Bryan Danielson because all I wanted was your respect, and Danielson cutting a babyface promo when he's still in a heel group about how all we wanted was Eddie to find the potential that we always thought he had 10 years ago or whatever, et cetera, et cetera. And you're like, okay, that's great. Shake hands, Ring of Honor, fantastic. I like hate in my feuds. And sometimes it's unresolved hate. But mostly it's just I'm frustrated by Danielson. I think he gets to have his dream match run where he loses every dream match. And it's gonna be fun, but at the same time, you're just kind of like, from a business perspective, you look at this and go, this signing should have had a rocket on it in terms of what we were gonna do for this company between him and Punk. And even Cole to some respect, around that time, they were all around that same time.
Yeah.
And all
Grand
three of those
Slam 21.
Something that can't miss, that can't move business other than the Punk moving, that first pay-per-view he was headlining. I forgot to mention Punk when I mentioned Champions too. Yeah, but yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, look, I liked this match. It was great. It was a great little story, et cetera, et cetera. Eddie Kingston as a champion is fine, but as a Triple Crown champion, I think that's kind of a Triple Crown's important, but then you go, oh, the New Japan Strong's part of it. And so it's not really a prestigious world or Triple Crown champion. It's prestigious to him. So you can do the whole Orange Cassidy loves his precious type story with Kingston at some point against other guys, but it's not, it's not your secondary title here. That's still, your TNT title in some ways, and that's stuck with, kind of a comedy act, but not. But it's one of those things where it's like I'm waiting for someone to bring importance to a title, where it's like we can put a pay-per-view around a secondary title here, and have that be a headliner type of a thing. And it's just people refusing to be stars. People are being very diplomatic with putting guys over, and look, it's great. It's an all friends wrestling type of thing, but at the same time, you're just going, AEW should be wiping the floor and getting closer and closer to the hottest company in the country, and they're not. And you're kind of like, well, what can you do with that? And would anything be able to move that? And you think Bryan Danielson's probably part of the reason that they're not now.
In a way, I'm sure he thinks he's being somewhat unselfish, that he's not taking spots, but at the same time, it's sort of being selfish because the company is better off with him in a more serious and productive position. And like, if you were to flip-flop him with Samoa Joe, do people care more or care less about that world title?
I'd say more, and I love Joe.
Same.
More, yeah.
Because I think he has so much heft from his run in WWE that it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, here he is, he's the guy, and they don't have any of that Triple H nonsense going on here now.
Right. Yeah, I think I'm with you guys as much as I love Joe's current run as well.
One of
the fantasy camp aspect of the sorry, Jeremy.
Go ahead.
The fantasy camp thing that's happening lately, I think, is really hurting them, where a lot of the matches are getting set up are saying, you guys watching this show should care about this match because this wrestler cares about it. And so like the Jericho Atlantis match last week, where it was like, I had no idea that there was a history of Atlantis and Chris Jericho because I didn't know about Chris Jericho's CMLL run in the early 90s. But they go out there and they say, I really care about this match, therefore you should too. And sometimes it really works. Like, Sting's tonight, he booked his own match probably, and it was exactly what he wanted. Jun Akiyama and Eddie Kingston, Danielson and Zack Sabre Jr. Like, there's times where it's really great, but they're just sort of letting these guys book for themselves, and to me, it's sort of just causing the company to be adrift.
I think it's that second show, though. I think it's Collision because
Mm-hmm.
Tony doesn't really seem to want to run his A1 stories on that show because it's not Dynamite, and he knows that's where all the eyeballs are. And so Collision just becomes this like amalgam of like stuff that people want to do, and then his B level stories. And you know, if you didn't have Collision, it'd be a different story. But
Remember
you
what was all the troublemakers that we were putting on the Collision? Wasn't that a great time?
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about this
Everyone's too
opener.
happy.
Yeah, let's talk about this opener, and then we'll get out of here.
Okay.
There was a segment of people who thought Daniel Garcia should have won this match. I was not in that segment. I don't like the lovable loser who wins one match and is all of a sudden, you know, on top of the world. I'm like, great, but how about you flip-flop his Continental Classic with Andrade, the guy who's not even here, and maybe I believe in Daniel Garcia a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I like Daniel Garcia. I like he's a young wrestler who you know we're gonna see, who's got promise. He was in there with like the perfect true grit vet. But at the same time, it's sort of the same trope that I thought Daniel Garcia has been having in all of his big matches. He's just outnumbered. He's either too small. He doesn't have the gravitas of some of these other guys, and thus he loses all of his big matches. And that was sort of similar here. As much as I kind of dug it. I thought it was fine. There was a weird Nick Wayne rushing at him for no reason right in front of the referee moment that didn't really make sense to me. But Mama Wayne was there and Daddy Magic showed up. I thought we were going to see something with Edge, which we did not.
I was really
but
surprised.
yeah, I mean, it was a fine opener to get the pay-per-view started, but I'm not sure Daniel Garcia has the story right now to put him in important roles and to make people care that much. Jeff, why don't you start?
I understand why Christian won this match, and I get why, he's a secondary title holder. It's going to eventually go back to Adam Copeland, or in terms of that feud. And I did think we are going to get a Copeland sighting here. I thought he was going to accidentally spear Garcia and then it would lead to the win, but it was an overbooked mess as it was. That said, in these types of matches, when we set these things up on pay-per-view, just once you need to have the young guy win and shock everybody.
Yeah.
And then it can be an anything can happen type situation. I am so done with the kid looks good in losing to the veteran type of story that I don't
love telling that story.
They in every company, and it doesn't work because it never gets the guy over, no matter how much offense you give the guy. And Garcia's been fairly vocal about, I think at one point he wanted to leave the company because he was just tired of his booking and how that was going. And, this was when he was in the JAS. But I thought as a shock the world type of thing where you give him kind of a run with this very important title, see what we got in the kid, because he's not going to be a kid that much longer. And the way we're going is we are going at glacial pace on pushing our young talent to being top tier talent because we don't trust them enough. See Private Party, see Top Flight, see all these other companies that get big wins, and then we never do anything with those, but we can say, hey, they have a big win over the Young Bucks or whatever, but they're still down there with the Hardy Family Office type of crap that they're doing right now. They're just doing it with Jeff Jarrett and company, who aren't exactly lighting the world on fire as main eventers. So, yeah, it's one of those things where I understand why this match happened like it was, and yeah, he got screwed, so I can be mad at the interference type spot. But that's like kind of like saying, yeah, Deonna Purrazzo would have won were it not for Mariah May and Luther, but I never want to see that match again either, kind of a thing. So it's one of those things where it's like I would have given possibly Daniel Garcia the shock win here, and then let's see what we have as him as a single star. Get him away from Daddy Magic, get him away from the other guys in the JAS, et cetera, et cetera. And let's see what we can do with him. But they didn't. I like the match overall. Christian's great. Christian is such a heat machine, and he was good to open up this card with.
Before I go to somebody else, do you think we are seeing the Edge heel turn sooner or later?
I think we can put it off a little bit longer. I don't know. It's one of those things where just depends on as Kevin said, just depends what the fantasy camp says. Is Copeland sick of coming out there, and is he ready to now fully retire and go do Percy Jackson and the New Olympians or whatever show he's on right now and do acting full time? Well, then we'll rush the heel turn and we'll get to that match.
I heard that show's actually halfway.
It's
decent.
not bad. It's not bad.
I remember those movies from back in the day. My kids read the books, and I kind of liked the movies back in the day. So I'm trying to get my my stepdaughter into that stuff. But no,
he plays the
god of war.
Yes, Ares, the god of war.
Kevin, go ahead.
I think I think the best way to do it would have been, and I normally wouldn't like this, but I think one edge spear that cost Christian the title would have been an interesting couple of weeks after that to see what happened. And I feel like Christian is like kind of in that mode where he could probably drop the title like 2 or 3 times and just win it back, like just constantly, no matter what. The thing isn't so much beating him for it, it's keeping it off of him. And I don't know, I was just really surprised he didn't do it, because I felt like this was, like you said, another one of those, well, Daniel Garcia is going to have a great future one day, and he's as over right now as maybe he's ever been, other than that peak when everyone thought that Danielson was going to take him under his wing. But he's pretty popular right now, so it's like they need to do something. The one thing I take issue with that I don't know, it kind of entertained me though, was Matthew Menard like basically slap fighting Killswitch up the ramp.
What was that
to
about?
shoo him off? So I don't know. It reminded me when I go to the dog park and you see like these big Rottweilers, and there's like this little Chihuahua like scaring him off just by barking at him. Like, that's what I was like. Why is Luchasaurus afraid of Matt Menard? But,
nagging him up the
you want to taste?
You want to taste? He did not want to taste.
Jeremy, wrap us up, and then I have one more question for you guys before we get out of here.
I watched this, and I'm with Jeff. Like, this felt like an opportunity to just give Daniel Garcia the opportunity to run with it that everybody except for Tony Khan seems to want him to have. And further, I'm not entirely sure Christian and Copeland need that title for their feud. Like, it's there, it's a prop, but if that title went to other people so that they could wrestle over it, while Copeland and Christian fantasy book from 7th grade what they've wanted to do all their lives, that would be ideal to me, because right now I feel like Daniel Garcia, we're going to be figuring out whether his next match with Nick Wayne is on Rampage or Collision. It's not going to be on Dynamite, it feels like. It feels like it's the afterthought to all this, where he gets his big win for the revenge against Nick Wayne, and then all of a sudden we're right back to everything is where it was before, and nothing has been gained from this.
Ring of Honor.
The frustrating part for me is I feel like that's exactly what's going to happen. And there's nothing to do to change it, and it could have been way more exciting going into Dynamite.
Okay, the last question is a version of what Jeff posted in a poll on Twitter. I'm interested in where you guys think this show ranks in the best AEW pay-per-views. Now, I will begin by saying I was live at AEW All Out 2021. I've not watched it back, so I only know of the live version, and that is like my favorite, maybe my favorite live show that I've ever been to. I was also at the original Double or Nothing, which is high on folks' list, and I've never watched that back. So for live shows, those are my 2 favorite AEW shows. And then Revolution last year, which won the Observer Award for Show of the Year, I was also there live. So from a TV perspective, excuse me, this is my favorite AEW show, but I would have to go watch those others, the pay-per-view versions, to sort of see how I feel about those. As a pay-per-view on that I watched from a couch. This is my favorite show, but I want to see where everyone else is at. And we'll go the other way. Jeremy, you could start first, then we'll go Kevin and Jeff to end it.
It's in my top 3. I don't know if it's my favorite all time, but I'm going to go with somewhere between. I'm going to go with number 2. I'm going to say All Out 2021 is my favorite as well.
Kevin.
I said at the beginning, I think it's probably my favorite. I think that might be some recency bias if I went down and actually like added up my memories. But off the top of my head, there's been ones that have had better main events or like 2 matches that were better, but like top to bottom, being this satisfied with a show, I can't remember, being this happy with like the mid card. So I'd say number 1 right now, subject to reevaluation.
All right, Jeff.
Same answer as Kevin. I think because look, the top stuff wasn't as great as some other cards, but top to bottom was the most solid card to me in terms of all the AEW pay-per-views I've watched, and I've watched all of them. I go with this one as probably their strongest pay-per-view they've ever done.
Paul Fontaine has it behind last year's Forbidden Door. He's cheering for Forbidden Door here right now. I mean, this was, I would say the last 3 days, I really got into the idea of Sting's retirement, and I was just so fired up for it. Not to say that I don't get excited for this stuff, because I do, but I just watch it in a different way to where I just don't let sort of my fandom kind of steer me. I kind of think about it a little bit differently. This is one of those moments, especially during that main event, where I was like, they got me. Like, I'm in. I'm hook, line, and sinker for everything. And it's just fantastic work for them. And I give, I can be hard on Tony Khan's booking, and I don't think I'm being unfair to it when I'm being hard. This was masterful. I thought this was everything that I ever wanted in this match. And there was a point where I was wondering if we were going to get it, but he delivered. And that's where I give him all of the kudos, Sting and Darby and the Bucks as well. I thought they were all so good. And yeah, this pay-per-view over delivered. I hope it does insane business for them, because if it does, then this is now the blueprint for how they need to do these really important shows. I think the way that they booked that main event, how important they made it, they really, they spent the money and they brought all those guys in. They really made this feel special. And I will definitely be thinking about this show when we talk about shows of the year in 2024. So, Jeremy, you're going to be back on Thursday. Speaking of strong style, you got a New Japan anniversary show to watch at some point, right?
Got the New Japan anniversary show, the New Japan Cup too. That whole big tournament going on in Japan to face Naito in April before the Windy City. So I got my picks, but if you want to know more about that, you got to check out the show, 5:30 p.m. Eastern on Thursday, speaking of Trucktown.
And Jeff, you and Paul will be back after Dynamite. I'm sure you guys will also talk about what we talked about a little bit. Paul,
I'm going to ask one question. Paul, what did you think of the pay-per-view? And then I'm going to go mute and I'm going to leave the show. It's the easiest show I'll ever do on a Wednesday. It's going to be fantastic. Yes.
By the way, Paul is predicting 225,000 buys for this show, which would be their all-time best.
They had Bleacher Report issues.
They did. Some people think it was because they had more orders than they thought, which I don't know if that's a good or a bad problem, but they did have to then sell it on Triller for people who couldn't get it on Bleacher Report. So I imagine they might have lost some buys there just in that transition, but maybe they'll pick up the late buys because of how good critically the show has been. I thought it would be one of their highest bought shows based on the last 3 days. But
my DirecTV never fails, so
yeah. Dave's cable box came in the clutch for us, because whenever we have to veer off of the cable box, we do sometimes have issues. But all right, thank you, and Kevin, like we said at the top, whenever you want to come in and hang out, you just let us know, and we're rooting for James to get better, and for whatever happens with the boom, people will know. Just keep tuning in. All
I'll
right,
be around.
thank you for
Wednesday.
Jeremy, for Kevin, and for Jeff. I'm Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.